Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Lieutenant Johnson, and welcome back to another video on the Fall In. So what we've done up to this point is we've shown you how to run your legacy and Deems data out of those individual systems. We've also run out of DQS, the EEC listing, and now we've imported data connections or connected data connections for legacy, for Deems, and for the EEC listing. The next step that we want to do is we want to be able to clean up our data for our analytics in a little way here and there. Now, the very first thing that we want to do is over here we want to be able to bring in our EEC description, because yeah, everybody kind of understands that 40924 is travel, but we might want to actually see that in itself. So what we're going to do is over to the right, notice that now I'm off of my table, right? So table tools is there, it's legacy raw table. Click over here and there's nothing there. Well, here's one of the benefits of having data tables. So what we want to do is we want to take that information and we're just going to name it EEC description, EEC desk, and I'm going to hit enter. And now what I've done is notice that now I'm still in the table. So a filter that was not is, so we'll be good to go going forward. So alright, what we're going to do now with our EEC description is we're going to try and just do a vertical lookup of the EEC. So right here we have just a VLOOKUP, and all that does is it looks for a table. The lookup value, what we're looking for is the EEC all 5. And right here we're looking for our EEC table. And if you remember, we named it by EEC. And so we're just going to, right here, AEIC, and tab. And now the EEC all 5, we're looking up the table array of EEC, which we've already named. And right here is the column number. So if you ever want to know, just go over here to your EEC listing. This is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. We're looking for column 2. So all we need to do is put the number 2. And right here it's looking for, the 0 is just looking for the range lookup, whether or not it's true or false. A 1 is true in binary, a 0 is false. False means that we want an exact match. 1 is an inexact or estimated match, but we want an exact one. So hit enter, and now here you see the benefit of having a data table. We enter one formula, and it knows that we want that formula entered in every single one. So now we have an EEC description for every OC going across. The next set of information that we want to make sure is we want to make sure that none of these entire transactions that affect our obligations really are affecting our obligations. Because as you can see, this here, U to X, yep, that's $215.74. No problem. It's 40924. But I'm not going to be concerned about doing analysis if all of my travel obligations, upward and down, equal 0. We'll be able to see fluctuations here and there, but if all of my civ pay equals 0 because the accrual dropped and the accrual gained, we don't necessarily need to see all that. So I'm just going to name it EEC sum, because all I want to know is, does the total sum of all of my criteria fit? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and throw in that formula, and we'll show you what we got here. What we end up with is we have the sum ifs, and what we're going to look at is just the amount. So get rid of this legacy fall all. So now we're looking at the amount column, which is right there. And now we're going to say, alright, we want to sum the amount if the fiscal year equals this line's fiscal year. We also want to know if the EEC all 5 equals the individual line EEC all 5. So give me the sum of the amount if the fiscal year matches the fiscal year and the EEC matches the EEC. If it equals 0, we want true. If not, we want false. Because if it's true, then that means we don't need to worry about it. If it's false, we're going to be concerned about it. So now we have our EEC sum, and now we're going to go right across, give you a little more room, and now we're going to create a very simple fall in or out function. And in here, all we're going to do is very simply now Is the amount positive or negative? If the amount is less than 0, it's fall in, and if not, it's fall out. So there we go. So fall in means that it was negated product, and fall out is not. So then we're going to just do our absolute value of the fall. This will help you if you want to do analysis based on actual impact towards 0, not overall, whether or not it's fall in or fall out. And you do that with just a very simple absolute value formula. So just ABS, and then the amount, and then close parenthesis. And now it's going to take away all of those negative transactions and just show you the effect from 0. And now some organizations, some MAJCOMs will only require you certain changes, certain levels of threshold. So for me, we're going to go ahead and put in a threshold column here. And what we want to know is, does that total absolute value greater than or equal to another transaction? And what we're looking for is just to identify, is our threshold high enough to be concerned about it? And what we can do is very simply look at this data and say, alright, we already have this, so just go ahead and copy this whole SUMIFS. And now we want to know equals if that SUMIFS is greater than 200, and that's the number I'm going to come up with, is any analysis over 200 I want to look at, then give me true. If not, give me false. And hit enter. And so now what you'll see is, for example, here, these CivPay transactions, because it's looking at EEC level data, we're not overly concerned about all of those individual EECs, but CivPay itself will show us an accurate reflection of the transaction. So now we can be able to have that. So now we're going to shift over here to DEEMS. We're going to do something very, very similar. One adjustment has to be done here that we didn't think about going forward, is that we're going to insert, just right click after you go there, and you're going to insert a column, and we're going to name this OC, because notice there's no period here. So what we need to do is we need to put in the left of this 3 digits, and left quotation, period, right quotation, and the right of this, comma, 4. And then hit enter. And now we have all of our OCs all the way down that can very easily target this data set. So now that we go back into CRIS, we're going to start with our helper columns here. And making sure you're all the way over and all the way up. We're going to come here and do the same kind of thing, but we're going to do OC definition. And now what we have to worry about is we have to go and say, alright, well, we can do another VLOOKUP of the value of OC comma. Now it's going to say the table array. Now notice we named this EEC, but EEC is on the far left. VLOOKUP needs the far left. So you just click over here, move up just a little bit until your arrow turns dark black, click, and drag over to the right. We only really need those 2 columns. So now it's saying, okay, the table array is looking up the EEC, but we only want OC to title. And we want our column 2 because this will become 1 and 2. And then we want a accurate exact match for 0. Hit it, and now allow it to go all the way down through all of that data set. So now we have our OC definitions, and now we're going to go through the same type of process here with an OC sum field that we just went through. And all we're doing is really kind of duplicating this set of data here. So right here we're going to do the same thing. If the SUMIFS of the amount, the fiscal year equals the fiscal year, the OC equals the OC, no difference there from legacy. Now here's where the change occurs. Because DEEMS works on periods of closed checkbooks, you need to make sure that the period matches the period as well, because you may have posted dates that occurred outside of a period but affect one period, etc., etc. So we need to make sure that we bring that in. So if that equals 0, then we want true or false, and hit enter. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to change this slightly because of how Deems works. We're just going to create a fall column, and what we want to do now is we want to come up here. Now this is the only thing that you really have to change on this product at this point as you go through fiscal years. Equals is the effective date greater than or equal to the start date of the fiscal year, and that means yes or no. So all it's going to give us is a true or a false statement, and then we need our absolute fall, and that just equals the ABS of the amount, close parentheses, and enter. It takes me right back. And then we want to make sure that our threshold is there again. And remember, we already have this data here of the SUMIF function, so no need to rewrite the world. But all we're going to do is go equals if that is greater than 200, then true. If not, false. And so now we end up with all of that data set all the way down throughout everything else, and we're able to make it possible to be analyzed going forward. So this was the helper columns for legacy, for Deems, and for the EEK. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go forward and start to create our pivots. So if you have any questions, by all means, find me, give me a shout. Joshua B. Johnson at the 115th Fighter Wing. We'll talk to you soon.